Hiya, this is Elman Dean, and I'm here today with Harry McEntire, the voice actor for Noah on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And some of you may already know him from Last Kingdom as Prince Aethelwold. So, shall I leave it to you? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, I mean, you covered it all, really. I mean, for anyone who's seen The Last Kingdom, calling him Prince Aethelwold is absolutely delightful because I don't think he ever gets given that kind of state. Like he's being consistently disrespected by everyone around him. But yeah, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. So, out of all the things that I guess you could have done in life, you could have been a sniper, Harry, or you could have been a lorry driver. But out of everything out there, acting appealed to you most. So, what got
Yeah.
you into it?
God, I mean, what got me into it originally? Oh, actually, originally this is like a bit of a circuitous route, but originally I wanted to be in musicals when I was a kid. I
Oh,
loved singing. I was a proper like little West End kid, and there was the musical of Les Miserables that we videoed off the TV because they did a special concert of it when I was about 10. No, sorry, when I was about 5, and I watched it over and over again, and I loved doing that. And then, in fact, when I started working as an actor when I was about 17, and so 15 years. And I did initially I did musicals. One of the first things I did was a musical in London, and then it kind of just kept going. Really, I think I love the flexibility it gives you, and I love the creativity of it, and the ability you have to sort of lose yourself in things and to go to other places. And when you're working, whether you're working on a game or whether you're working in theater or on screen, you know, you get to just immerse yourself in something completely different. It's escapism, it's storytelling. That's what I really love about it.
now you mentioned musicals. Can I guess your range?
Go on, you can try.
Tenor?
No, everyone thinks I'm a tenor.
I know, I know.
This is actually why I can't. I speak at a tenor level, but I'm a baritone. I'm like, I've actually got a relatively low. So my range is like Javert, or
Ah,
I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, like, and that's the problem, that I can't sing how I look. And there are many reasons why I'm not working in MT. One, because I can't dance. Two, because my voice isn't strong enough. Three, because actually I wouldn't want to, because those guys work so unbelievably hard, and I can't do the same thing 8 times a week. It drives me insane. But the other thing is, yeah, I don't match, and I can't sing Marius. You know, I haven't got the top end. So
so
yes,
are you summing up that acting's easier than?
yeah. The headline is acting is easy.
I would probably disagree with that. Obviously, I'd maybe have a job somewhere, but actually, I never tried. But anyway, no, that's really cool. I did not expect that. Have you done anything with that, with the singing or anything since then?
Nah, it just drifted away. There was a sort of a very strange situation which I can't even fully describe because I don't fully know what happened, where I think I sort of had vague interest from a record company when I was like 18. My friend was doing songwriting at a place near where I grew up called the Academy of Contemporary Music. And he's a songwriter, and he's a really successful songwriter now. His name is Daniel Breyer, and he writes for Rag and Bone Man and for Niall from One Direction. I don't know One Direction very well, but he writes for amazing people. And he said for his final showcase, will you come down and read some and sing some stuff, sing some songs I've written? And it went really well for him. Obviously, it went really well. And then, so I kind of almost don't want to say this in case I'm wrong, but my memory is there was someone from Warner Brothers there, and they said, "Here's my card if you want to talk about recordings and stuff." And I said to my agent at the time, I was like, "Oh, this happened. I don't know if I kind of." They were like, oh, "Okay, we'll look into it," and I never heard anything. So
I've heard
maybe
anything.
there's a different world and a different life. I mean, that was 14 years ago. My voice is not in the shape it was in 14 years ago. I shout songs towards the end of weddings on dance floors. Like that's about as, and I go to the football. That's about as much singing as I do in a kind of regular week.
Fair enough, fair enough. So moving on from singing, let's go back to acting. So we'll get to Noah in a bit. But before you got the role of Noah, you were in Last Kingdom as Aethelwold.
Yeah.
So Would you like to talk about that character?
Yeah.
Although your hair looks a lot different now,
Oh, thank God. Thank God. I actually, that up there is a painting that my makeup artist did for me of Aethelwold on his horse
oh,
as a
really?
wrap present after 3 years. She was called Judith, and she did my makeup every day for 3 years. And yeah, that was a present. So that's very precious to me. But yeah, I mean, I got that job when I was 24 and I didn't finish until I was nearly 28. You know, it was a really big chunk of my life, and incredibly proud to be part of it and grateful for it. And, you know, a lot of what I have now, you know, a lot of the career I have, I owe to that show. And more than that, a lot of my best friends I made in that show, people who I really love and really care about. I mean, for anyone who hasn't seen the show, it's a sort of Alfred the Great era, Viking, horsey, swordy, the creation of England as a single state. But it doesn't just cast Saxons as good and Vikings as bad, or vice versa. It's a show, I think a lot of the show is about the grey in people and the grey in politics and in religion and in faith and in love. And so it's a show that kind of, as much as it adheres to a lot of generic conventions on one level, actually when you start to dig down on it, there's a lot of really interesting and unusual stuff going on. The source material is these books by Bernard Cornwell, who's an amazing writer over here. Had an incredible TV show called Sharp that I grew up watching, that I loved watching. It's the kind of thing that one of the many things that made Sean Bean the Sean Bean that he is. So yeah, so The Last Kingdom was just a really amazing experience for me, a really wonderful creative experience, because if you're in a show for long enough and you have the kind of quality of writers that we had, led by Stephen Butcher when I was working on it, the character starts to get written with more and more with you in mind. And so
yeah, there was one scene actually, it involved your character and Otta, and
yeah,
I was like, that wasn't in the book, and but
yeah,
it added a little extra layer to your character and Otta's as well. And in the book, it may be like just a passing reference.
the books are kind of, I realized the books weren't going to be a great reference for me in terms of the literal. When you were first introduced to Aethelwold, the description is something like, he was strong and tall with hair that fell to his shoulders and eyes that caught the attention of serving girls. I mean, if I may, they're describing you rather than describing me. And so I'm 5'5", in big shoes. And the haircut they gave me was, it took the hair designer 2 hours to the lady cutting my hair. It took her 2 hours to give me a terrible haircut, because every trained bone in her body is trying to give me a good haircut. And the makeup designer kept being like, literally just grab it and chop it. But so I realized they were going a different way pretty quickly, from the handsome, charming male to there was one review that I really liked that said I look like a drowned hamster. And actually, you can see that they've oscillated wildly between those two polar extremes. So
quick question, a follow-up to that. After you got that haircut, how was it getting off the set and going back to the real world and dealing with that then?
I didn't used to be a hat person, and that was my Everest, were those haircuts. The worst part was the back, apparently, which fortunately I don't get to see that much. But I started wearing like snapbacks and beanies. And even today, like, I did my hair today for this because, on camera. And it's quite unusual for me to do my hair. All I do normally is just put a hat on. And it all stems from The Last Kingdom. I called my wife after my first makeup test, and they'd put boils on me and scars and these kind of pustules, and they gave me this terrible haircut, and they cut into my beard, and then they cut whole, and my beard wasn't as relatively full as it can be now, and they would cut chunks out of it, and then they'd get a wig and they'd stick a load of glue into the gap, and they'd chop bits of this wig, so it was all kind of, it looked horrendous. And I said to my wife, oh my God, this is amazing. Everyone's going to look like shit. Like, this is just going to be a show populated by ugly, really authentically ugly people. And then I met everyone at the read through.
No,
And
just you.
I called her and I was like, it is literally just me. I am the ugly one. And they put me in these kind of woolen clothes in series 1 to make me feel, I mean, they were great. It was perfect for them to make me feel even more like a kind of a child amongst warriors and politicians. And I just looked like shit for 4 years. So yeah, it's quite nice. I'm always worried by how often I get noticed. If I do get recognized and people are like, you're Aethelwold from the Last Kingdom, and I always think, oh, I'm wearing my best clothes. I've really tried. I really wish people didn't know it was me.
Yeah, I'd say. Well, I mean, you've seen some actors that would go from looking great in a movie, and then when the police find them on the street, they look like
That's it.
worse for wear. So
they've
I mean,
jumped the shark. Yeah,
you
I've
clean
not
up.
yet been found.
You clean up rather well.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So, with Aethelwold, what did your wife say about all this? By the way, like,
well, you know what, my wife was, and this is spoilers for season 3 of The Last Kingdom, if people would like to watch it or are watching it and haven't got there yet. But I only make it through 3 seasons of the show. I am killed in the end of season 3, and before I'm killed, I have an eye burned out, and then I have a huge prosthetic open eye socket with no eyeball in there. And both my wife and my mum said that was their least favorite. Watching me get my eye burned out. They've seen me get killed in stuff. They've seen all kinds of stuff happen to me. They've seen me do all kinds of terrible things. And that was the thing that they both went, actually, this is really horrible. I don't like seeing you being held down while someone forces a poker into your eye. And actually, all our background artists are Hungarian, and all of our stunt team were Hungarian. We had this amazing crew and group of creatives on it. And as I'm lying on this plinth, being pinned down by these guards, and this is very crass, by the way, they were like, okay, turn over. We're just going to do the insertion of the poker into the eye, which obviously is being done with CGI, but still, you kind of got to get yourself into a bit of a headspace. And one of the guards, who's a stunt guy who I'd never met before, just leant into me and in sort of really charming and imperfect English just went to me, before it goes in your eye, it's going up my asshole. And I went, okay, okay, thank you. They were like, add action. And it was just like the weirdest time for him to tell me that. But it was very memorable, at least. I got a story out of it.
Were you trying not to laugh when they said action?
Yeah, because you're like, this is insane. Although that's one of those scenes where we were a really tight group and everyone was incredibly supportive of each other's work. And there are certain scenes where, especially if you're a character like Aethelwold, where your job was to kind of undermine everybody and to sometimes be kicked in the head and sometimes be mocked and then sometimes to be mocking and sometimes to be pulling the rug out from under people. You're very rarely like driving a scene. It's very rarely a scene that you just grab hold of and go, this is where it's going. That's much more what your kind of lead characters do. And so if you had a scene that you had to kind of drive, the other actors, we'd all be like, God, you did a really good job on that, by the way. Like, well done, I really loved it. All this sort of thing. And one of the scenes, the kind of scene that you always weirdly get complimented on, is a scene where all you have to do is scream. And actually, I think they're some of the easiest scenes you'll ever shoot, because all you got to do is lie there and scream and thrash about, and everyone's like, wow, that was really good work. And you're like, oh, that's really sweet. I'd rather you thought it was good work when I learned all those lines than when I just went. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun. It was an amazing, a really brilliant time in my life doing that show.
We skipped this one question. What was your break in to acting? Like this deciding factor that was like, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing forever.
Yeah,
so
forever. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in terms of me realizing it was viable as a career was this musical that I did. It was called Spring Awakening, and it was a musical based on a Frank Wedekind play about sexual awakening in teenagers, and it was on Broadway, and it had like Jonathan Groff and Lea Michele and some really wonderful actors who've gone on to do brilliant things. And I got that job when I was 18. I'd been out of school for about 4 months, and I got this job, and I wanted to be an actor really desperately, but I assumed I was going to go to drama school. And so I thought, well, I've been told you look very young. Don't worry about applying for drama school until you're a little bit older. So I had a little local agent who'd done brilliant work for me, who'd got me a couple of jobs in my last year of high school, I suppose. And I'd done a TV and a radio and some stuff. And then this opportunity, I was working like serving breakfasts at the local like police station kind of thing, but I had an odd job. Yeah. And then I got this audition to do this job, and I was 17 when I got the audition. I had my first recall just after my 18th birthday, and then I got the job when I was 18. And it was one of those shows where we went onto the West End. We didn't last very long on the West End. We probably only lasted about 3 or 4 months. But for that 3 or 4 months, it was the best shop window in London. We met the maddest people. We met like Kyle Gass from Tenacious D and Gemma Arterton and Bill Gates, and like just like this really bizarre selection of people. But if you're lucky enough to get in a show like that, it just kind of then I got an opportunity to be in a play, which started in the same theatre. And every year that went past, every 12-month period, I was like, oh, shall I apply for drama school? And I just kept working. And I actually didn't really stop working for about 6 years, which is kind of insane. And everyone was saying to me, you are going to be out of work at some point, you know, like there will be a gap. And I was going, yeah, in a really insincere way, believing, as I think a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds do, no, I think I might be the most talented person of my generation. So respectfully, you have no idea. I'm going to win an Oscar by the time I'm 25. But sure enough, it did slow down. But by that point, I'd been working. Yeah, I started working for 6 years, and about 6 years later, I got Last Kingdom. So I had a bit of a charmed life at the beginning. I really did. I mean, you could say I still have one because I still love what I do. But yeah, it was that one musical just kind of gave this energy to my career, which I was just able, like a wave, I just kind of rode it into shore for as long as it lasted, and it just lasted a really long time.
Yeah, and I say recently the wave got pretty big too. So
yeah, man, I'm enjoying this wave the most, I think.